Hello friends, welcome to my channel KATHA MANTHAN. Today I am going to tell you an ICSE story, The Chinese Statue, written by Jeffrey Archer. Introduction of the story. The Chinese Statue is one of the 12 short stories that constitute the collection of short story, A Quiver Full of Arrows by Jeffrey Archer, was once of the British best-selling authors. In this story, the politician cum writer takes his reader from the United Kingdom to China on a tour of ancient heirlooms. Sir Alexander Heathcote, the protagonist of the story, had a passion for collecting antique materials. He had an appreciation of Ming Dynasty art of China. When he was appointed British ambassador to China during reign of Empress Dowager Zhu Hasi, he had a unique opportunity of collecting such rare specimens of heirlooms. All on a sudden, he came across a tiny statue of the world's emperor Kung. It was the possession of an aging poor craftsman in a small village, some 50 miles away from the capital city of China. As Mr. Heathcote expressed his intention to own such an antique piece, the poor craftsman felt obliged to offer the statue as a gift to the ambassador. The artisan pointed out that statue had no base. He volunteered to select an ornate base from a box of bases used for his own artwork. He fixed the base to the statue so that Sir Alexander could stand the statue on display. True to the tradition of a world-class short story, it has a startling twist at the end. Several generations later, the statue finds its way into the auction room of Sotheby's in London. Strangely enough, the base of the statue was valued more than the statue itself. Summary of the story. Sir Alexander Heathcote, the descendant of an aristocratic family, had an overwhelming passion for collecting antique materials. His diplomatic career gave him the opportunity of possessing the statue of the Emperor Kung. He had to meet an aging, impoverished artisan in a village about 50 miles away from the capital city of China. In course of his conversation with that craftsman, he carelessly divulged his willingness to own such a specimen of antique art. Such inclination on the part of ambassador put poor craftsman under an obligation to offer that statue as a gift. Sir Alexander realized that acceptance of the gift is unbecoming of a diplomat, and hence he felt a sense of guilt. He felt equally obliged to reciprocate with the wonderful gift for the Chinese craftsman. The old artisan pointed out that the statue of the Emperor Kung had no base. He volunteered to offer an ornate base from a box of bases used for his own craftsmanship. He fixed the base to that statue so that Sir Alexander could display the statue to his guests. The statue remained in the Heathcote family for generations together. At long last, the statue was in possession of Alex, who had no means of earning his livelihood. He took to casinos opened in Britain in the turbulent 60s of the previous century. His debt rose to an amount which he could not manage to repay. His family honor was really at stake. He then decided to deliver the prized heirloom of the family to the Sotheby's for putting it up for auction. The head of the Oriental Department of Sotheby's assured Alex that the statue would be evaluated within a few days. He was confident that the fine work of Penque would fetch a good return. Alex asked his creditor to wait for repayment till the appraisal of the expert was done, and they all agreed to his proposal. He expected that the statue must be worth more than £10,000, but the expert informed that the statue was fake. It was probably the copy of the original. It was worth £800 at the most. The base of the statue was assessed more than the statue itself. Theme of the story: The Chinese Statue by Jeffrey Archer is the story of an overwhelming passion for possessing an extraordinary specimen of a work of art, supposed to be great antique value. Sir Alexander Heathcote, the descendant of an aristocratic family, had irresistible passion for antique materials. When he was appointed the British ambassador to China, he got a unique opportunity of coming into contact with such antique collection. On his visit to a village some 50 miles away from then Peking, he met an aging poor craftsman who placed before him a tiny statue of Emperor Kung. Sir Alexander carelessly divulged his desire for owning the statue. Quite naturally, the craftsman was under the obligation of offering the statue to the Alexander as a gift. The theme of this story centered around the statue, which was supposed to be an antique art piece. This statue was held in high esteem in the Heathcote family for several generations. The story took a startling turn when Alex became the owner of the statue. Alex had practically no means of livelihood. He took to casinos, a sort of gambling opened in Britain in the turbulent 60s of the 20th century. He ran into enormous amount of debt. His family honor was really at stake. Finding no other way to pay back his creditors, he decided to deliver the prized heirloom of the family to Sotheby's, the famous auction house of London. The auction authorities engaged an expert to evaluate the statue in terms of money. The head of the Oriental department of Sotheby's was confident that the fine work of Penque would fetch a good return. Accordingly, Alex asked his creditors to wait for repayment till the appraisal of the expert was done, and they all agreed to his proposal. He expected that the statue must be worth more than £10,000. We find subtle twist in the story when the expert gravely informed that the statue was fake. It was worth £800 at most. Strangely enough, the base of the statue was assessed more than the statue itself. So friends, let's discuss few question answers regarding the story. Sketch the character of Sir Alexander Heathcote. Sir Alexander Heathcote is a perfect gentleman with an attractive height of 6 foot 3¼ inches. He had been very disciplined and punctual since his boyhood. He is particular in attending to his daily round of activities. He is a member of diplomatic service of his country. Gradually he rises to an eminent position and becomes an ambassador to China. Sir Alexander has a great appreciation of Ming Dynasty art. He appointed as an ambassador to China gives him ample scope of having a first-hand knowledge about Chinese art, especially paintings, drawings and statues. He is eager to learn more about China and its art and culture. He prefers to use the tenure of his appointment for traveling extensively into the outlying districts. A Mandarin always accompanies him on these trips as an interpreter and guide. In course of one such journey, he happens to arrive at a small village called Ha Li Chuan. There he comes across an old craftsman in his shabby wooden workshop. Sir Alexander humbly requests the craftsman to allow him a half look at the handiwork of the old artisan. He is overjoyed to see so many specimens of Chinese art. He studies and praises those samples of art. The old artisan is impressed by the love and interest of Sir Alexander for Ming Dynasty art. Sir Alexander does not possess any specimen of Ming art in his private collection. When Young Li, the old craftsman, passes a little statue of Emperor Kung over to him, he is simply wonder-struck. He is undiplomatic to express his desire to possess it. The craftsman feels sad to learn this, but he decides to part with the statue, following an age-old Chinese tradition. While returning to Peking, the Mandarin accompanying Heathcote reminds him of another Chinese custom of such kind gesture within the calendar year. Sir Alexander too wants to respect his traditional custom. He gets the real value of the statue assessed with the help of the Mandarin. The amount is equal to almost 3 years' salary for a servant of the crown. He spends a large part of his savings to build a beautiful small white house of the most perfect proportions in the valley located at far side of the village Harlichuan. He gives this modest house to the old artisan in a bid to repay his generosity. Heathcote completes the 10 years of his service in Peking and returns to his native Yorkshire. He spends his post-retirement years in his parental house with his wife and the little Chinese statue. He bequeaths the statue of the Emperor Kung to his first son. After leading a successful life, he dies at the age of 70. Thank you friends. Thank you for watching my channel Katha Manthan. For more question answers, please visit our website www.kathamanthan.com.